Hello, welcome back to All for United UFC. And yes, you'll notice all the instruments playing in the background. See, I'm already messing up. I'm not used to this new surroundings, as you'll see. I'm currently sat in a hotel room in literally Wembley, about 2 minutes away. So I'm not going to waste any time. I'm just going to come straight into it. Mia will be joining us in the next kind of couple of minutes, so we'll see how if she does, if she's able to join, not having current laptop issues. Mark and John, I see your comments already. We don't need to go through all that again, do we? The video's on Twitter for everyone to see, and it's been seen by about 20,000 people, so we don't need to see that.
Oh, this Griff is 2 feet tall, 2 feet tall, 2 feet tall. God, this Griff is 2 feet tall. He loves Brill Cream. I missed it on Sunday, so I'm glad I got the chance to do that.
I can't believe this. I just can't believe it made it into the ground. First thing Mark Emery says to me when we get into the ground, "Oh, we've got a song for you." Oh, great, I know what this is. Anyway, right, Charlie, I'll throw it over to yourself first, and as we usually do, we'll come to the lineups. We'll do obviously player performances and all those kind of things in just a second. But Charlie, something we spoke of, obviously you were there as well. Oh, here she is, the perfect person as well to add off the back of this. So I'll add her in already. Evening, by the way, to you, Mia. Charlie, I'll throw it to yourself first then, in terms of the atmosphere, because we've kind of spoken a little bit, obviously, privately, that this felt a little bit different, this one. Obviously, we're used to United selling out away ends and all these kinds of things, but this had a proper little bit of spice to it, this one.
Yes, it was very uncomfortable when it got back to 1-1, wasn't it? It's very uncomfortable, but loads of things happened in a really short space of time that I know we'll get into that made it very feisty. It was brilliant. I think up until that point, United fans were brilliant throughout. Villa fans were poor. But yeah, when it started kicking off with the red cards and the goals for fun, it got really exciting. Stewards were boring. I don't know if we'll mention that. Tried to kick all of us out for standing up. But I think that added to it in the end, actually, because that just made us louder, I think. But yeah, good atmosphere, good away following again. Thousands, wasn't it? And hopefully we keep that up as the season progresses.
You'd like to hope so. Sorry, just going back to this is the last thing I'm bringing up on this, because, well, Barry will probably mention it at some point again, but I missed this comment as we were going live, and I think it's disgraceful. But we'll move past that.
Was he?
I mean, he was actually. It wasn't me that was delayed this time. I got to the hotel like 10 minutes before we went live, and I was still first here, so I'm not having any of that. I don't even know what the question was. Mia, for yourself, obviously you were there as well. What do you make, obviously, on the atmosphere? As we were just saying there, obviously a bit of spice to. Obviously, we know the issues with the stewards. I put that on Twitter yesterday as well. What do you make on it from that point of view?
Yeah, it was amazing. I haven't been in the stands like that for a domestic game for a long time. And I sort of forgot that feeling. So it was really nice to sort of have that back. As Charlie said earlier, the steward definitely added to that, because he was getting slaughtered for the rest of the game, and everyone was just having a good time. And despite the uncomfortable first 70 minutes, yeah, it was brilliant. There was just chanting the whole game, making so much noise, putting the Villa fans to shame when it's their home ground. Yeah, I was impressed. I was really impressed at the support. Yeah, and I'm back on Friday. I liked it that much.
See, this is what we do on this channel. We rope people in, and now they're into every game, tied down for the season. And yeah, obviously, I don't really want to go into negatives too much on it, but yeah, I think you summed it up perfectly. They were. I genuinely felt like I was back in school when he was tapping me on the shoulder saying, "This is your last warning." I'm like, who are you talking to? Yeah, so that was not fun at all. I tried to tell him I've got dodgy knees, but he wasn't having any of that. But wasn't really an excuse. Right, we'll start off with the lineup then, because Barry, I was actually looking back at the show that we did. Obviously, Charlie, you were also on it, and Vic, who's in the comments, where we made our best, what we deem as our best 11, obviously between the four of us and so on. It was actually the exact team that Skinner put out. So again, just another example that he watches these things and takes on board what we say. But Barry, were you surprised with that lineup? Were you happy with it? Obviously, as I said there, it was what we said would be our best, obviously, on the show. I know that me and you had a couple of other players in there, but were you happy with that lineup when you saw it?
like I say, Mark's going to know what side his bread's buttered. He knows that if he watches All for United, we'll carry him through. And that's exactly what we've done time and time again. We took him to second place with the rest of them last year. Who knows, maybe we can go a step further this year. But no, I wasn't surprised at all. I think the thing that I love about this channel, Connor, is that we do genuinely sit and think about these sort of things. You know, we're not just reactive clickbait merchants that are looking for the headlines. We do actually think about where we're going to put people and why, and we know our football club. I think really that just shone through. It was absolutely the right sort of thing to do. I'm pleased he went with Mary Apps, despite my little, spitting my dummy out as I did on Friday, which, you know, I do that, as we know. It was nice to see that she was professional. She was, I think, the Mary Apps that you would expect her to be, which was good. And to be honest, I expected her to be like that. I was just, you know, registering my displeasure. But other than that, it was a spot-on sort of team, really. I think he picked the perfect 11, and I was quite happy with his substitutions as well, which I'm sure we'll get to later. But yeah, I thought a good choice from Mr. Skinner. And ultimately got the 3 points. So can't argue too much with the selection process when it ends up like that.
No, it is. It's hard to disagree with that one. And Jess, before I come over to yourself on the lineup point of view, there's a lot of talk about Leon and Mickey. I do see you commented talking about Leon wasn't out of order. I think if you weren't in the ground, you probably aren't. Like, you probably don't understand what we're referencing. We'll probably get to this more when we talk about the Villa goal. But there was a little moment where Leon thought she was going full Adebayor and decided to come up to the away fans and do a little taunt. That's what people in the comments are referring to, and it wasn't picked up on TV because I've watched the game back in full and it wasn't on there. So yeah, a bit annoying. I wish somebody had filmed it a little bit because she got her own. Well, we got our own back, I should say, at the end of the game, which was quite nice. Jess, for yourself then, surprised with the lineup, happy with it? What was your kind of thoughts on that one? Someone going to tell us she's muted.
As I was saying, more than happy with the lineup, to be honest, and seeing Garcia back on, I think that for me that was like the kind of the best part of it. You know, she played so well last season, coming on as a sub most of the time. I think she really has earned her place in like the starting 11. So seeing that was just amazing. Really, really happy for her. And obviously, she picked up play of the game. She scored. She was somewhat iconic in her post-game interview, obviously. But yeah, no, really happy with the lineup. And I will say, not being there, I'm actually really upset that I missed Leon's little taunt. Because, like you said, Connor, it wasn't on TV, so I didn't know anything about it until you mentioned it a little earlier. So I'm gutted I missed that one.
I wish I could repeat what I said. I can't on air because the video will get demonetized very quickly if I repeat what I said. Mia will probably tell you backstage, I'm sure, if you want to know. Shane was just as bad, though, if he's in the comments. I won't be having any of that. Just throw it at me. But Charlie and then Mia, for yourself, any surprises on the lineup, or were you relatively happy with that one?
No surprises. If, like we said, if two of the new signs were going to start, it was probably going to be those two. I think I'm most keen to see. I don't know how to pronounce it properly. Is it Mallard? That sounds really rough. That sounds like proper English pronunciation of a nice French name. How do you say it? I think
Mallard.
I look forward to seeing her because I felt like it was a really good performance from United, which we'll get to. But I think at times what we were missing was a bit of a poacher in front of goal when Jace was coming out and winding things, and I feel like she could fill that hole. But yeah, expected. I think everyone was pretty good. Lots of players, considering the sort of backloaded or front loaded season, you'd call it. What would you call it, Barry? Backloaded or front loaded?
I'd call it whatever you're going with.
Busy summer. And September they had. I thought they were incredible. But I think the Skinners did say, didn't it, at the end of the game, that we can expect these first few weeks to see quite a lot of changes, which he's never really sort of said before or implied he was going to do. So I'm excited to see who's playing on Friday, actually.
Yeah, I'm just going to echo what everyone else said. Good lineup. I'm going to sort of touch on Gabby George as well, because when she first signed, I wasn't sure. and I think that's probably quite bold, but I wasn't sure on how she was going to fit. She played tremendously well. She was so good considering that was her first, proper game in front of the fans, and yeah, she played really well, and the team was great. No, I don't expect there to be any changes for Arsenal at all. So obviously, dependent on whether Galton is injured or not, I don't know too much on that, but yeah.
No, I think that's fair enough. I'm just to let obviously player and match polls in the chat. You know how it goes by now. Obviously, just stick your vote on there. We'll come to that at the end. There's always one. Jennifer, why isn't Mila Tissier on the player and match poll? There's a couple of reasons, but
I think the main reason for that is because Connor's gone rogue and solo. I'm picking the player of the match because.
Or worrying about Charlie's right next to you. It's Charlie's picks. Don't look at me.
What sort of?
I was asked for my picks. There was no clarity that would be the actual final four.
See, this is what he does, Charlie.
But I'm happy with
boom, somebody else's fault.
No, I agreed with Charlie. So, and you weren't here, Barry, at the time. So.
Now the monkey crawls out of his sleeve. See.
We just went for that. Speaking of Gabby George and Barry, come to yourself first. As Mia said, that obviously first, I guess, WSL debut for United, obviously in United shirt. We know she's got WSL experience with Everton. How did you feel she did yesterday? Obviously playing at left back where she played for Everton for a bit last season. How would you kind of guess sum up her first outing?
Solid, I think is the word I would use. Solid start. She looked quite good going forwards. Possibly a bit of work to do on delivery in terms of finding the people that we actually wanted to find. It wasn't always in the box. Sometimes it was too close to the near post or it went off. So she's got a little bit to do there. But I wouldn't have expected it to be any different, really, for a first game. I think she did incredibly well, as indeed did pretty much all of the backline, to be honest with you. We limited Villa. They didn't really have a huge amount of efforts and chances. They weren't getting around us at the back too much. Obviously, it was from that side that the ball comes in that Rachel Daly scores from. So there is that, I suppose. But that'll be about it. I think for a first performance, very solid, very good, and shows that there's probably a lot more in the locker to come. So if that's a starting position, that's a solid foundation. So, yeah, really, really pleased with Gabby, and equally very pleased with Hannah, because I can't say I wasn't a little bit worried about how she was going to do on a completely different flank to the one that she usually is on. So, yeah, very pleased with both of our fullbacks. They did a good job. I suppose, really, the only sensible thing to say at this point was on a who.
Oh, bit too soon for me, that one.
that touched the nerve, that.
When we get on to Jason, you can say Alessia who. I'm all for that. But Honor, maybe.
On a who? She wasn't even picked for Barcelona, was she? On a who? Yeah.
All there's some reasons for that.
Onwards and upwards.
Jess, I'll throw it to you. How long's that taken? 14 minutes.
Wasn't bad.
Shocking. Jess, for yourself and obviously Charlie and Mia, feel free to follow in on this one, what you made on Gabby George. Obviously, a couple of comments talking about her crossing. Obviously, there was a lot that did go into the keeper's hands. I've got to be honest. I don't think her crossing was the best, but defensively, obviously, apart from the goal, again, which I'm sure we get into, I think she did pretty well.
Yeah, I think she did. And I mean, like, Villa can't kind of be slept on. They've got a very good team now, especially going forward. I think she did lose a man a couple of times. I think Alicia Lehman did kind of dummy and get around her a couple of times. So Villa did have a couple of chances. But like you say, you wouldn't really expect anything less for a very first start for United. She's got an entirely different set of teammates around her, a whole completely different atmosphere. So for me, really solid performance. Probably better than you might actually expect for kind of a first game. But like we've already mentioned, and a lot of the comments are saying, the crossing, not great, but that's a lot easier to work on than many other things. So more than happy with that, to be honest.
I wonder, because we obviously just talked about Hannah playing, well, I say Hannah playing out of position. For Chelsea, did she play right back? And then she's played left back for us.
Yeah,
Is
I
that
don't know
right?
if she was. I
That's
don't know if
good.
she was consistently there,
Yeah.
but she has played there before, and
But
she's right-footed as well. So
yeah, so I wonder if when obviously Jade was on the bench, wasn't she? But she's obviously not been fully fit. I do wonder if when Jade is fit, whether Jade goes in at right back and Hannah goes back to where she would normally be. I'm interested to see what happens with that going forwards. That's it. I'm done.
all right, I don't know whether Mia was just going to go straight in on that or what. No. Go on.
Sorry, no, I'm currently fighting my my laptop charger. I think I'm just gonna drop out at any point because my laptop's not charging. So I'm just fighting that. Sorry, what is the question?
Gabby George's performance.
Oh yeah, very good. I don't think if someone brand new to watching United watched that game, they would have no idea that she was playing her first competitive game. As everyone said, there's stuff to be worked on, but the main stuff is there. She was very solid, very strong most of the time. She was confident in her passing. She was looking up. She's doing everything that you want a fullback to do. Again, there's things that she needs to work on, but for the most part, it's there, and she's a really good addition against what is a tough team, tough opponent. So we'll see what she's like against Arsenal, because that again is another challenge. But really, really good start.
I think that's it. She's, I was speaking to some people outside the ground afterwards and in the concourse, and they're kind of saying you got to think how little training time they've had as a group. This whole squad together have had next to no training because of late arrivals and the international break, and they've been separated all the time. So they've only really had a few sessions together as a full group. So to come in, I thought she did really well, considering, like I said, there's definitely room for improvement. I think going forward, her crossing ability wasn't great. But defensively, I thought she did okay. Certainly wasn't bad. Moving on to another kind of WSL debutant then, and for me, it would have been my player of the match had Lucia not have scored at the end. But Jace, now, to me, I mean, she's going to be, well, if she's not already a big fan's favourite, she's certainly going to be. But Barry, what did you make on her performance? Because to me, she looks like a player that I don't think we've had before in terms of having that ability just to take everybody on, not afraid of it. And she, to me, just looks so cool on the ball, just stopping in the middle of the pitch, going, come on and try and get the ball off me. And just, I love that about her.
She's like Rumpelstiltskin, really, isn't she? Just weaving gold out of those feet into sort of silk. It's amazing. Absolutely unreal. That first half, she was really, I think, terrified Villa, and I think they were pretty worried about what was going on. I think she was nullified a bit more in the second half. I don't know if that was because she was a bit more tired, a bit fatigued maybe, but genuinely thought she was really, really, really good. She had some good chances. I think the thing that gets me the most, though, is that she was good at holding the ball up. She was thoughtful about what she was doing. There was one moment in the second half that I just loved. Like, she's forward all by herself, realises she's got nowhere to go, so she turns around and just saunters. That's the only word I can use. She's just sauntering backwards with the ball, waiting for some people to catch her up. And then, whoop, she turned and absolutely did the Villa defender, who's like, hang on a minute, I wasn't expecting that. She was like a whippet, kind of, just gone. And brilliant. So that, again, for a first performance, absolutely unbelievable. I think the biggest problem for Jays is that she obviously needs to tell everyone her name again, because I don't know what it is about WSL commentators. It's like players tell you how to say their name. Like Michael McCann's in there quite a bit because he's spoken about old Frida Marnham and how she's got to have her name, Leon Hardson Marnham, if you please. But we're all calling her Jay-Z as if everybody wants her to be Beyonce, and she's blatantly said it's Jay's. So it'd be nice if they could get that bit right. But other than that, what a fantastic debut. Brilliant stuff. And the only thing that would have topped it off would have been a goal.
Yeah, I mean, Charlie, what did you make on her performance as well then? Because I think, again, one of those players gets the ball, the whole crowd, you just off your, well, if we were allowed to be off our seat, you get kicked out if you do that at Villa Park. But if you dare lift yourself off your seat, she's that kind of player, isn't she? And just not afraid to take people on. It just, some debut.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing she did was take on two Villa defenders, and it it was from that point, wasn't it? Every time she touched the ball, it was just excitement levels for an individual player and what she might do. And I mean, everything Barry said is what I've written down. Although I've written down, wow, that's the first thing I wrote. But yeah, it was a really tough day for the Villa fullback. Is it Turner? Really tough day for her. But she can find a yard of pace from nowhere. Like the number of times that she just dropped her shoulder and turned a Villa defender and just absolutely gassed them and left them for dead from a standing start. And also a hold-up play. I think everyone sort of, when Russo was off, we were talking about we might miss her hold-up play and her ability to keep hold of the ball and play other players in. But Jace has got that as well. She was absolutely incredible. And I think she was the best player on the pitch for us, I think, by a mile, really. When you look at that first half of football, I know she tired and she petered out a bit, but she was so good. And I think give it a week or two when everyone else is more on her wavelength, because you're starting to see quite good connections now, like Tooney massively upped her performance playing with a player of that quality. I think it impacted what Ella Toon was doing as well. But there were times when like Jace played the back heel into the box and no one was quite anticipating that sort of magic would happen. And I think when they start to get used to playing with her and they anticipate more what she's going to do, I think she could have had 3 or 4 assists as well at the weekend, never mind scoring herself. But so excited by her as a player. And like I said, within seconds, it was just like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. And she's ours. And everyone said we weren't going to get her. And we've actually got her on a contract. But yeah, what a signing, what a player. And that can only boost everyone else. When probably all the players have read all summer and all we've heard is, oh, how are they going to replace Russo? And the fact that she scored every single goal for Man United, which is basically what the media outlets are saying. It's kind of shut that up a little bit, I think. This 23 is better than the one we had before, I think. Absolutely outstanding, world class.
I find it hard to disagree with that. Neil, I see your comment about Letizia. We are going to get to her in a second. Well, not in a second. It'll be later on in the show. And I saw Deborah was asking about the Rachel Williams praise for Charlie. That will also come towards the end of the show as well when we talk about the Williams winner yet again. And Highlane's got it. Yeah. Everyone's got us down finishing 6th, struggling. What they're going to do, these unknowns and everything else that they wanted to write about us. We go and beat Arsenal Friday, we could potentially put them out the title race before the season's even pretty much begun for them. So there we go. Mia, throw over to yourself then, obviously, then Jess, feel free to follow in on this one in terms of what you made on Jay's performance. There was a couple of comments a bit further on talking about her, I guess, end product. There was a lot of crosses. I tweeted the compilation that Barclays WSL, their TikTok account, made, and she always beats the player and then puts the cross in. It always either hit the second or first player or went long and so on. Do you think that's maybe because players aren't on her wavelength yet? Because there was a lot of talk about that in the ground as well.
Definitely. I think that's the one thing, and that's not, we can't criticize her for that. But I think obviously that she is such a world-class player. She's got such quality. And arguably maybe the rest of the team aren't quite used to what she's going to do in that sort of unpredictable nature, the Brazilian flair that she's got. And I think that's going to take a bit of time. But again, she's got it and it's there. And as soon as everyone else starts anticipating that maybe she's going to put it there or maybe she's going to do the back heel, or they need to sprint into the box to get on the end of the crosses. We were saying in the stands, Connor, that she's throwing in these beautiful crosses, and you want her on the end of it. Like there's no one else there. Like just that wavelength is something to work on. But again, it's her first game in front of the fans. It's her WSL debut. Everything that she did, most of the things that she did were superb, and she brings that excitement. Every time she was on the ball, the crowd were up and sort of ready for her to impress. So yeah, brilliant debut for her, and what an exciting season ahead.
Yeah, and I think that's probably like one of the biggest things. This, she had a fantastic performance, and that's not even her kind of on her best day. Really for her, that's probably like what could be like an average game for United. She's not used to the players. Again, like I sort of mentioned before with Gabby George, she's barely been around these players. Everyone's been disappearing off an international break. She's been back in the country like 3 days. Quite honestly, it takes me 3 days just to recover, let alone 3 days, and I'm then, playing professional football. But I think seeing her on the ball and the excitement, you actually got excited, and it's not very often that a player can kind of bring that out of you. And as the team get used to her playing style, as she gets used to everyone else's and what other players' expectations are, I do think that she's going to be a really, really good fit. She's got the skill, but she doesn't seem too selfish with it. You see a lot of players kind of with a lot of technical or a lot of skillful ability get very cocky, want to overplay the ball and then lose it. She kind of knew when to hold off, knew when to slow down play to let everyone else catch up. I thought her decision making itself was quite good. Some of the end products were a little bit hit and miss, but again, like you sort of said, Mia, she's only just kind of joined. So I'm really, really looking forward to seeing what else comes.
I don't mind saying, Con, jumping in there, I loved her at the end, and I probably didn't come across on television, but after the game, how she came and was she was like taking it in, wasn't she, Connor? Because she was getting a lot of, and Mia, you obviously were all there, she was getting a lot of love from the crowd, and she was kind of basking in it. And I think the translator came over and was basically saying, they're singing about you. And she just looked like she was loving it, wasn't she? And it's nice that she is aware already that she's having such a positive impact, and that the fans are behind her. But yeah, it was good at the end. I
think that's it, isn't it? Obviously we know Barcelona have got a good following as well, but whether she's had that, there we go. There's the laptop, Dad. It's nice knowing you, Mia. Hopefully she can come back if the laptop reboots itself. But it was very much like that at the end. I tweeted the video on the AFU account that I took of her kind of appreciating exactly as you said, Charlie. The translator obviously went over and explained. I don't know what conversation went down there. And yeah, really good to see her. Just unbelievable to me. And like I said, if she can carry on like that, I mean, just unbelievable. I can't wait to see potentially Mallard down the middle, Jace on the right, because then you've got a proper clinical striker with somebody like Jace putting unbelievable. I hope so. What Mike's saying there, Chase could have the Cantona effect on this team. Now that would be something if we can get something like that. Unbelievable.
As long as she doesn't start like 2 foot in the crowds or anything, then I'm happy with that. I don't want any flying kicks in my face.
She can 2 foot the stewards at Villa Park or something.
Those questions.
That would be quite something, but and needed.
Leave Quiff Boy alone. Wallet.
Honestly, the more I think about it, the more ridiculous it gets. But Rebel Charlie over there, the one kept looking down. Charlie wasn't sat down for majority of it. She kept testing a look. And
no, I was when we scored, I was stood on the chair as well. I've got to be honest, but I think the steward had changed by then, because he came over and beckoned me down. I was sorry. I went, oh, I'm really sorry. I went, no, you're just excited. So the next steward was a lot nicer.
See, the thing is, Charlie, though, you're like me. We can stand on a chair and people still think we're sat on it.
Very true.
There was a few.
Whereas Quiff Boy there, way too high.
There was a few. There was a few chances, Shane, wasn't there? That's him about the fact that he was sitting down when it looked like. Yeah, we get the thing. And they did. To be fair, I didn't see that guy again after half time. So. What happened there is anyone's guess. Right, let's briefly talk about the one, I guess, negative then. The Villa goal came obviously after the Kirsty Hansen red card. At that point, the red card, you're thinking, right, we're going to go on and win this. And then Villa scored 5 minutes later and completely killed the mood a little bit. But I guess, Barry, for yourself, what do you make on the Villa goal in terms of what you think United could have done differently? Because it was a bit of not a hit and hope. Obviously, Leon got onto the end of it. Play it into the middle. It's a good finish by Daly. I don't think Herbs is getting near that one. But what would you kind of look at from a United point of view in terms of what we could have done a little bit differently on that one?
Well, I think there's a few things that sort of built up there. You know that you're always going to get a situation where people are getting riled up. I mean, I don't know if you're going to get to it, but people talking about the May Letitia foul. It was a foul, 100%. I feel.
Which one? There was the elbow.
Have one of them sit down. young lady. Who was it she did it to? Salmon. That was it. Yeah. You often say you rise like a salmon. Well, she went down like a sack of spuds, didn't she? So you could have that with a salmon, I suppose. But you just had that moment. I don't think it was a red card. I think anyone calling for a red card on that one, to quote Stu Willie, just doesn't know football. I don't understand that. Like, there was covering defenders. There was everything you would want. Yellow card tops. Anyone who thinks that's a red card, I've not got the time to talk to you, I'm afraid. That's unbelievable. And then, of course, you had the Hanson one. Now, the bit that made me laugh about that was everyone going, but there was no intent. She didn't mean to do it. And I'm like, if you chop somebody's head off, you can't sit there and go, oh, I'm sorry, I was aiming for the arm. I'm really sorry about that. And that's all right, don't worry. No, I've still got no head over here. And yet here you are going, well, I didn't mean to. Doesn't matter. You still did it, didn't you? So, was there any intent? Of course there wasn't. But it doesn't change the fact that her foot was so high that, she doesn't need abs or a six-pack because she's just got a bunch of studs all around her stomach. So I think all of that was always going to build up the tension to the game. And it was starting to get to that point. Villa had a bit more of the ball, a bit more of the attack, and they were starting to look a little bit more dangerous. It was a good ball at the end of the day. I thought Leon got it. To be fair to her, as much of a fool as I think she was following the goal, from what you say, there was a little bit where she was arguing with the referee at one point as well, and you just sort of realised, actually, she's just not a very nice person. I like the attitude on that girl is just unreal, and I'm glad that she's not at our football club anymore. Is the honest answer to that. I feel like she was, that you can just see from the way she was behaving on that pitch that she had a problem, but she took it all out on the wrong person. So it was a good ball though. Can't argue with that. It was a good ball across. Rachel Daly gets it. Do I think we could have done much more? Not really. Sometimes I think you have to just sit there and go, it's a good goal. And I don't really think that Rachel Daly was allowing us to do anything other than have that ball in the back of the net. It was at near post. So, I don't know, maybe there's a question on that one. Could she have got down to it? But I think sometimes you just have to take your hat off and go, good finish. Well played. And when you've got 10 men to go and do that, fair point. So fair play to her. A good goal from Villa. But thankfully, that just spurred us back into motion, and off we went.
Yeah, and trying to throw it to yourself, then you've got three things to kind of wrap up there. As Barry's done it, I'm going to literally just bring them all into the same conversation because it was in the same kind of 5-minute spell, really. The Letitia kind of body, the Hanson red card, and obviously the Villa goal. And obviously, if you want to touch on the thing with Leon as well, because you were there, obviously post goal as well. But just those instances in terms of whether you thought it was obviously the Letitia one, whether you think that was correct, obviously the Hanson one as well, and also what United could have done on the goal.
That was loud. Sorry. I'm not just saying this. I didn't see what happened with Letitia until after. Obviously, there was a bit of a
melee. Arsene Wenger over here.
But yeah, there's a bit of a melee, wasn't there? Which I always enjoy. Our players are good for getting stuck in, aren't they? Lucy Staniforth, another United reject, trying to throw a weight around, and then got sat down by Zelen, which I enjoy. But yeah, I think the thing is, we've historically, I'm sure the last few times when we've had a team go down to 10, we've reacted badly to that. I'm sure that's happened, and you sometimes find when a team goes down to 10, they get a bit of a siege mentality, don't they? I know there's a lot of conveniently blaming Zelen for that goal, which she might have been at fault. She was the midfielder I saw trying to sprint back and do something about it. They weren't all doing that, is what I would say. But yeah, definite red card for Hanson. MLT, I'm going to be a bit biased. United in all football have been on the end of some really disgusting officiating decisions and VAR decisions over the last few weeks. So I'll take one in our favour. Thanks very much for a change. And when you've got Rachel Daly, like, she's brilliant, isn't she? She's so good. She's world class. You see it aerially. With the ball at her feet, she's so good. And when she gets the ball in that sort of position, you're always going to be in trouble. But I think our response after that, which I think we will get to, again, just showed the things that we showed last year. And I love those moments. I love a comeback like that. And we loved them all last season, but I don't want that every game again. I don't want that. But yeah, it added to the atmosphere, didn't it? All of those things happening so quickly really upped the ante. made the ending, the crescendo, even better.
Cool. They're dropping like flies here tonight. What's going on here?
We're another one down.
But yeah, no, I agree. I think, you know, those instances in quick succession, as you said, obviously the Villa fans and the whole end were silent all game, and even they were, piping up around that point and really making it. I mean, I'm glad because it made a really good atmosphere about it in terms of the two sets of fans. But, and you know, as much as I found what Leon did pretty annoying, especially at the time, as people around me will have heard, I don't mind it as much. Albeit it doesn't really make sense because the United fans haven't done anything to her. Like, you know, and she's not like a United player that then went, like Greenwood, for example, obviously ended up at City, or, you know, James or so on. It's like...
Yeah, I don't think anyone ever really slated her or anything. To be honest, I don't think we saw her play enough to kind of have any real strong feelings any which way about her, or I personally don't. I can't really comment. I don't really have any feelings about her because I just didn't see enough of her for whatever reason. So yeah, I do find it a bit bizarre that she had such a kind of strong reaction.
It was bizarre. I didn't know it because she just did it for a while, but I don't know. It's what it is. But Jess, obviously on those instances for yourself, what did you make of those? Do you feel like, you know, the foul, the red card, and the goal, anything the United could have done there?
So, well, starting with the My Letizia challenge, never is that a red card. I don't know. I think a couple of the pundits were saying that it was a red, and quite honestly, I just don't understand how that is ever a red. And that's not me being biased. That's just me who has a vague knowledge of football and the rules of the game. I think there's an argument that if the ref sees that, it's probably a yellow, and you're probably not going to argue with it being a yellow. You know, player was kind of going through on goal. There were defenders, so it's not a clear-cut chance or anything like that. But I think there's an argument there for it being a yellow if it's seen, and it definitely was a foul, no doubt about it. However, I did thoroughly love it. I've bodied many people in my time, and it's just great fun, to be honest, especially when the ref doesn't see. So make the most of it while we don't have VAR. Hansen, yeah, again, I don't think there's really a lot you can say. She's gone in high and stood up. I think if it was a yellow card, probably wouldn't argue with that either. But ref said red, so it is what it is. And the goal, kind of agree with what's been said already, to be honest. You know, I mentioned a little bit earlier that Villa have a very good team. You know, they've really been, the last couple of transfer windows, they've made some very good signings, and give them kind of half a chance and they're going to punish you. And they did. You know, you only have to give Rachel Daly the ball in the box and she's probably going to score. You know, she's just kind of that good. So I think we could have been maybe a little bit more organised from the midfield, kind of going back into defence. But again, first game of the season, been through all that. I think you've just got to, like Barry said, sometimes you've just got to accept that a team have beaten you and have kind of scored against you. But, you know, we did what we always do, kind of rallied, got back together and never give up, kind of never die attitude. And can't really ask much more, to be honest.
No, yeah, I tend to agree. I know. So Ian is our resident ref to come in and try and tell us on this one. Obviously, the Barge was a foul. I think I agree with that. I think it's definitely a foul because she's not going for the ball and she has, shoved her over. It's not a red for me. So I think I probably agree with that. What I think you're referring to, obviously, should have been a penalty, possible second. Yeah, that was obviously it's the slide on Daly. Now, at the time, I think I turned to me and said, "Oh, like that looked close. Like, I don't think she touched the ball there. I think we might have got away with that."
Get the ball,
but she
the thing is, it just goes slightly over the top of the ball, and then it takes Daly as well. So yeah, it probably should have been a penalty.
Yeah, so I think maybe we got. I think if Carla Ward's airing frustrations, I think she'd probably be more annoyed at that one than, or I would be. I'd be more annoyed at that than I would be the other one. And obviously the Hansen was a red, no question, but no matter. And I think I said we always talk about intent on this channel. You can't prove intent. Only that player knows, and we're never going to know. But the foot was high, and yeah, I don't know. To me, it would be, but who knows? It's subjective, isn't it? And it shouldn't be, but these things seem to be. Barry, come to yourself then for the equaliser. Obviously, Lucia Garcia, somebody that, again, last season came off the bench and saved us a lot of time, scored a lot of goals from the bench. She's already opened her account on match day 1 this season. What do you make of the goal? It was a bit of a scruffy one, bit of kind of pinballing around the box. But the thing I wrote down was composure. That Garcia kind of slowed the ball down and slotted into the bottom right.
Well, I'd like to tell you what I thought of Lucia Garcia, but I'm too bleeping tired. What a legend, honestly, to just go on the BBC and just completely drop the F-bomb made me giggle to my very core. And I've been watching that on repeat for most of the afternoon. I was also pleased I didn't watch it whilst at school because that was probably a sackable offence. So I'm glad I waited till I got home. I do just have to quickly point out, because this popped up whilst I was otherwise engaged, dropped out from the old internet. So, hello, Crooner. I still disagree. Just thought I'd throw that one out there. I'll let you respond in however you wish to be doing so. Right, was the question Garcia? Do you know what? I thought she was superb when she was on the right. I thought she lost a little bit of effectiveness when she went over to the left-hand side. I didn't think she was quite as good as she had been when she was on the right. But despite that, she still obviously scored the goal. Now, the goal itself was pretty good, with the exception of the fact that it should have been cleared. The corner was all right. It ends up with Millie Turner. She chests it down, and then there's Garcia just in exactly the right spot to just larrup it home. And I think what I liked about that was her reaction. She didn't then just go, oh, look at me, I've scored a goal. She goes running into the net, tries to pick the ball up. Rachel Daly not giving the ball. So this is what I mean. There was a bit of bite in this game at this point, and that's what was really interesting. The lead had only lasted, 3 minutes? So, yeah, I think she had a superb game. Absolutely brilliant. And like I say, I just think she was a little bit better on the right-hand side than she was on the left.
Has Barry's in? Oh, it's not mine, or is it mine?
No, it's not yours. Do you want me to jump in?
Feel free. I thought it was mine.
Do you know what was interesting about her performance? I think last season there were some games when she started off pretty well, and then she kind of petered out. And then in other games she came in and she made a massive impact, didn't she, for the last sort of 10 to 15 minutes? Whereas I think yesterday she had a really solid, 100 minutes. It ended up being, didn't it, 100 minutes? Something I like about Lucia, which we saw last year in sort of the last few games against City at home, and then Liverpool, the last game of the season, is that she's always alive to the ball. She always anticipates that something's going to happen, and she doesn't switch off. Like I said, we saw it against City, didn't we, when Vilda headed it back in, and we saw it against Liverpool, and then we saw it yesterday. And I like that about her, that mentality of she's going to anticipate the ball might come to her at any second, and she will always be ready. And when I think about who our best sort of front three might be now, it's really difficult based off that performance to not pick her, because I think she had an outstanding game and was really worthy, I think, of the player of the match performance. That, like I said, that's the key thing for her with me, is that she did it for the full 90 minutes. She was really good.
Yeah, I mean, Jess, what do you make on the goal itself? That's a little bit scruffy, obviously, and obviously if you want to touch on Garcia's performance as well, because as Charlie said there, we're used to seeing her come off the bench and obviously perform well, but as Charlie's just alluded to, 90 minutes she did this for, and she was solid throughout, and I think there's a reason she's currently on 84% on the player of the match poll right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think her overall performance was pretty phenomenal, to be honest. There's a reason that she was so very tired after the game. I don't think she kind of stopped running. Like Charlie mentioned, she's anticipating all the time where the ball's going to be next. She's very good at kind of positioning herself. But yeah, in terms of the goal itself, a little bit scrappy, but to kind of take a minute and have the composure to kind of take another touch, knock it round the defender, and then kind of slot it home. Because it's not actually that easy to finish in kind of that position. You've got a lot of players sort of everywhere. So to kind of slot that one home, I thought she did a really good job. Again, I kind of mentioned earlier, I think it was great just to see her perform so well for the whole game. She's been a bit of a super sub towards the end of last season. So again, like Charlie said, for her to kind of have such a great performance for the full 90 or 100 minutes, whatever it turned out to be, I thought was just really, really good. Consistently high level performance throughout the whole game.
Is Barry frozen again? Or is he just really, really good at holding a still face?
Playing some sort of game now.
Of all the people, I'm literally in the middle of London in a hotel, and I'm not the one that's loud. See, if I drop out, it's just going to be you two. We'll see how that one runs. Right, we'll move obviously on to the winner then. Charlie, for yourself, I'll obviously throw it to yourself first. Williams again coming off the bench, and I think there was a little bit of talk in the ground. Well, it certainly was around me. Obviously, when that sub was made, it was like, oh, Jace is coming off for Williams. Like, yeah, whether that helps Mark Skinner's case or not, whatever you think of him. But it's been proven right again. It's another winner for Williams. I think I saw a stat, something like she's the first player or something like that to score 5+ 90+ minute winners or something like that. I think the stat is something really random, isn't it? But yeah, what did you make on her performance when she came on? Because she came on for a lot longer than I think people expected. 30 odd minutes or whatever it was, but popped up with the winner again. Right on.
Yeah, the thing is, you know what you're going to get with her. She's going to come on and she's going to bully defenders a little bit, and she's going to make them work really hard. And I think her goal was particularly impressive. When you watch it back, she is obviously expecting the cross from Paris, but it takes a quick deflection, which completely changes the trajectory and the pace of the ball. And if you watch it back, she has to check her run very quickly. She has to change position. And because of the deflection, there's no pace on the ball whatsoever. So she has to put all of the pace on the ball and the placement. And I think she talked about at the end the fact that they looked at the Villa keeper and knew that she would probably come across to the back post to try and intercept the ball. So knowing that, she knew there was one place she had to head it, and it was back across the face of goal and in. And I think when you take all of that into account, I think that probably for me makes it the best goal of the game, because of all of the little nuances that she had to do to deal with the things that were going on around her. And there was a defender competing for the ball against her as well. And the thing is, like, you'll always have people that say, oh, you needed a 35-year-old to come and score. I don't care. Who cares? She came on and she scored a goal and won the game, and we deserve to win the game. And that's what we need her for. She talked again about knowing what her job is. Her job is to come on and be a nuisance and try and score. And she does that every time. So no complaints.
Right, Barry, throw it over to yourself first. I'm not going to give it any intro because I don't know how long you're going to be with us or not. But what did you think?
Who knows? That's why we're getting a strongly worded letter at this point. I'll tell you that. Don't mind the occasional dropout, but that's honestly horrific. So yeah, just to finish off, Lucia Garcia, superb, well done, good job. Better on the right than the left. Effectively, I was going with that one. With regards to Rachel Williams, also, can I just say, apparently I've done my very best Phil Jones, so I'm looking forward to looking at this back. Yes, it doesn't sound like it's going to be great. You might need to blur out the face, apparently, by the sounds of things, but we'll see. The thing that impressed me with Rachel Williams was listening to her interview afterwards, because she's very clear about her role. And she says, I'm spending the whole match watching the defenders, seeing what they're doing, seeing how they're playing, and thinking about the ways in which she's going to get around them. And, at school, we do a lot of things. We try and get tournaments, all of those sorts of things going on. And it's amazing. You try and get the kids to come and watch the game against the opponents they're going to be playing against, and they're not interested. They just want to go off and play football. And you never want to take that away from them, but equally you do get very annoyed as a grown adult who knows that they're going to get a lot more out of watching the team that they're about to play than just mucking around kicking the ball about. And I think that's what's so brilliant about Rachel, is that she studies the game. She studies what's going on so that she knows, all right, I only have 15-20 minutes to go and do something, but she's got maximum impact because she already knows where she can go, what sort of lane she's going to need to run down, where she's more likely to get the ball, where she can be more of a nuisance, more an impact player. That's exactly what she did. I would love to be sat here today saying what a fantastic cross by Nikita Paris, but unfortunately it was just a chance to put it in and then it deflected off into the air. But from the moment that happened, she was in just the right place. It fell absolutely perfectly. We've said before what a great goalkeeper Van Donselaar is. She was superb in the World Cup, and she is going to be a heck of a player, I think, for Aston Villa. They've absolutely got themselves a top quality goalkeeper there, but it was always going to take something as good as what Rachel Williams did in order to be able to score the goal. And it was a superb header. It was one of those that sort of happened in slow motion as well. It wasn't a bullet header, it just sort of slowly bounced over the line. But again, what a response and what a team. And I think what this shows for us is people were worried about what United were going to do this year. Were we going to be lacking the creativity, that we had when we were going forward before? Absolutely not. And that's why I say honour who. What did you think, Jess?
Oh, I love Rachel Williams. I really do. I just think she's fantastic. Just her personality, herself, she's class. And for people that don't like that we have a 30-something-year-old come on and score our winning goals, I think they must just be jealous. No, I thought her goal was really good. Like we've said, you know exactly what you're getting when she comes on. She comes on to do a job, and 9 times out of 10, she absolutely does that job. When I kind of saw that Jace was coming off so early, and for Williams, I was a little bit initially kind of like, oh, is this the kind of right move? But then I thought, well, do you know what? Rachel Williams has proved time and time again that she can come on and just annoy defenders, basically. She's just ruthless. She'll just run them into the ground when they're already tired and then pop up and score the winning goal, which is exactly what she did. So, yeah, fantastic from her. Really can't knock it. She came on to do a job and yet again has just done it kind of flawlessly.
I think that's it. I was very much like you, Jess. When I saw Jace going off, I turned straight to me and went, if we lose this now, Skinner's going to get absolute pelters for that, because you're taking off arguably the best player up until that point for a player that, again, it's still questionable for whatever reason. My mouse has just died. That's really annoying. For whatever reason, obviously still has question marks around her. But you think of nearly every goal that Williams has scored has been an important one that has either won us the game or got us back into the game, or things like that. And it's always seemed to be late winners as well. I agree with what Chris said. It's just very intelligent. You can't underestimate how important that is. And I think just to have around the squad, to have somebody like that, who is just so down to earth. It's very widely reported. Obviously, she says it a lot that she's got no interest in following on football when she retires. She's going straight back to her day job, and I think they said on the commentary afterwards, she always comes out and says she's a better plasterer than a footballer. But if this is her playing herself down, I'm all for that, and she can carry on scoring these goals. And I think we've always said, haven't we? Well, she's always said it as well in her interviews, that she knows her role in this team. And that is her role, to come on these types of games and win us these points. And I think that's crucial. And you need players like that around the dressing room, even if they're not going to always get on the pitch.
Connor, I've got to just... How old are you, Jonathan? I don't generally say, but I grew up in the years of Liverpool's Fairclough and United's Ollie. So Ollie was late 90s and Fairclough was mid-70s, early 80s for Liverpool. That's a hell of a lot of growing up. That's like a whole 20 years there. So unless he was 0 at the time that Cloughy was playing for Liverpool, that's a heck of a window. But he's not wrong. Subs is massively important. And I can see Rachel Williams getting a good 5 or 6 or 7 this season. That's really going to help.
No, yeah, I think so. I think you're right. We're a team that has goals spread out across the front line, and anyone can come on and score. And it's good to see that obviously Garcia and Williams have already opened up their account. To somebody else I wanted to mention before I kind of look to close this one off. Obviously, Miyazawa did come on as well for her WSL debut. Her WSL debut in a United shirt. Charlie, what did you make on her? Because obviously she came on for Ladd. I don't think Ladd had a great game, I've got to be honest. I thought she looked a little bit off it, which again is not surprised with the games played. But what did you make of Miyazawa's performance, and also I guess tying in Skinner's substitutions as a whole? Because Miyazawa did get a run out. She got 20 minutes by the end of it, because obviously there was a lot of added time. Obviously Paris came on around the 70 minutes for goals, and obviously Williams was 5 minutes before that. Do you think they were all about right? Were they the kind of subs that you were looking at? And what did you make of Miyazawa's little cameo? Like I said, ended up being about 20 minutes or so.
They were the right subs because we won the game. I was impressed with her cameo. I thought we needed to be able to keep the ball a little bit better. I think technically she was very good. I also thought that when we went 2-1 up, she harried really well. And there were a couple of times when she won the ball back at our byline and got the ball away. So she came and did the job she was meant to do. I think there was a bit of a microscope on her as well, with her being the sort of the Golden Boot winner from the World Cup. So I think it's probably the right thing to do to bring on just for a shorter cameo. But again, looked really promising, and the sort of player that I can see linking up well with Tooney and Jace. But yeah, just all round really good. Didn't set the world alight, didn't need to. Just needs to come in and do a job, and did it really well. And again, another one that I'm looking forward to seeing more of as the season goes on. See what she has to offer.
Yeah, and obviously Barry and Jess for yourself. What did you make on Miyazawa's little addition at the end there? Mark saying they looked tidy and got into pockets, good pressing a lot. And I guess not surprised, but obviously she came on for Lad, which I guess is a little bit of a surprise considering people assumed that we'd brought her into play in the attacking role. I know we were chasing the game at that point, trying to get the winner, but what do you make on her performance?
Well, I think it's an interesting one because we don't really, as you just said, know what her position is going to be. Is she going to be used as one of the sort of the pivot points potentially? Is she going to be pushed further forward? I figured she might be the one to go more on the left-hand side. I think the problem was we just didn't see enough of her. It was a little bit of time and it was a chance to get bedded into the English game and see how it's played, get up to speed, literally, with the pace of the game and that sort of thing. I think the interest growing older is compulsory. Growing up isn't. I haven't grown up for ages. I've been 5'1" for a very long time. So unlike Connor's hair, which is growing up exponentially, I have to say. So it's too easy. It's too easy, Connor. They just put these things in there and then I can't help myself. It's a disease. But what I really wanted to see from Miyazawa was more minutes. I do agree with that. With what JJ says there, I think more minutes with Anata we might see her quality. I think that's probably true. She did say, he did say JJ, he, she, whoever that might be, could be Jennifer Jordan's alter ego, for all we know. But Marty had one with old TJ. I think there's a lot of people saying, we wished we'd brought her on earlier and all that sort of thing. Listen, I think we should just be happy at the end of the day. The substitutions happened. We won the game. We did everything we needed to do. So that's fantastic. I would like to see more of her. She's one of the ones that I am most intrigued by and seeing how she's going to fit into the team. So, yeah, I think that's the first thing. Where is she actually going to play? Where does Skinner want to play her? That's what I'd really like to know more than anything else. Because once we see that, it becomes a bit more obvious. I think, like you say, when you're chasing the game, the idea is that she's going to be a bit more forward thinking, but it wasn't necessarily the place where we'd expect to see her all the time. So more than happy, like I say, at the end of the day, it's a solid start for everybody. There's nobody there. You said Hayley Ladd didn't play particularly well. I thought everybody was just solid. It was a solid base, as I said at the beginning, and a solid foundation to build on. So good news. And I'll just very quickly touch on that just to say I thought she was a million times better than I thought she was going to be, but I'd still potentially play Miyazawa instead of Tooney.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think just quickly following up on the Tooney point, I thought Tooney had a good game. Probably one of the better games we've seen her play compared to sort of how she was performing towards the end of last season. So hopefully, she's going to get back to what she can do because we know that she is an incredible player with a hell of a lot of talent. But I think, the subs came on at the right sort of time. From the final scoreline, you've got to say that Skinner did a good job. I thought Miyazawa played pretty well from what we saw. Probably not long enough really to form too much of an opinion. Be interesting, like Barry said, to see where she's actually going to kind of settle into the team and where she's going to get played. So just sort of really looking forward to seeing more of her. I think everything we saw so far was pretty positive, to be honest, from all the substitutions.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I thought I don't know if she set the world alight, but she's not going to. Somebody, as Alan just said in the chat, obviously, with this international break, and as there was a comment I just brought up a second ago from Jonathan there saying, Skinner himself has said expect some walking football this season, or at the first few games, because the players are absolutely shattered. As Lucia kindly put in her interview with BBC, which, funnily enough, they've cut out of the edit now. If you go onto BBC iPlayer and watch the game back, that interview's now not in there, but it's all over Twitter, so you can find it. It's easy enough to find. But while we're talking about team, we may as well. I'm going to come to another question in a second, but I thought she was good in the first half. I don't know if she was great in the second, but I thought she started well because Jace was on fire as well. And I thought she linked up well with Jace. I think, Charlie, you said this at the start. But I feel like as soon as Galton obviously picked up that injury and then went off, and Jace went off, I think Tooney then dipped herself as well. personally. But I think that's going to happen. And she's another one. She's clearly going to be a bit, obviously tired as well, played a lot of football, but I don't think she was exceptional. I don't think anyone sat here saying Toonie was absolutely unbelievable, but she was certainly better than we have seen, certainly at the back end of the season. And there we go. Someone's agreeing with me. That makes a change. Had a good first half, yeah. I think that's about right. And yeah, Jennifer's obviously just backing up what we're saying there as well. The lad was pretty anonymous. And again, it's this international break, isn't it? Hopefully we'll see a bit more moving forward, which kind of leads me into my final question before we kind of come to player of the match. Obviously, Lucia's famous quote that has flown around. Mark Skinner obviously addressed this. And it's not just United. A lot of managers obviously have addressed this. And obviously, Charlie, you've seen this as well, being at the game at full time. The players looked visibly very tired. A lot of them you could see it on their face. They looked absolutely shattered. For Arsenal, obviously, on Friday, quick turnaround, and obviously PSG the following Tuesday, 2 massive games in our season already. Do you think we should be looking to rotate a couple of them already? Or do you think we should be sticking with that same 11 again, despite the fact some of these players are clearly visibly very tired?
I think the issue is not the issue. It's a privilege that so many of our players now are international footballers. So it's going to be the same for all. It's going to be the same for Arsenal. I think if Galton's fit, I would keep the same front three. This might come back to bite me in the arse, but the thought of that 3 up against Lotta Woburn-Moy and Jem Beattie hopefully fills me with absolute delight. So I don't know, it's one of those things where normally last year I go, no, same starting 11, it'll always be the same starting 11, but Skinner seemed adamant, didn't he? He said there was going to be, expect to see changes over the first sort of 3, 4, 5 games. But I just don't know where. I don't know where that might be. I wonder if Melvine is match ready, whether we get to see her. Might be nice to get to see her, a bit of a presence in and around the box. I think the argument of Miyazar instead of Toon is a fair one, even though Tooney played better this time than we've seen her for a while in a United shirt. I think that will be an easy switch to make. I just don't know. I know it's a really boring answer, but I just don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't change it at all, but I also wouldn't be surprised if he did, because he said he's going to. So, no idea. I think back 4 is the same. I think back 4 might stay as it is.
I think that's it. And obviously, Barra, come to yourself on this as well. Like, in terms of Skinner's been very open that there's going to be a lot more changes this season. Obviously, he's clearly much happier with his squad this time than he was last season. But on the flip side, Mike's made a good point there, saying problem is re-rotation. When you play as a gel ASAP, obviously with the players mixing around and so on. So do you think he keeps the same 11 for Arsenal, or do you think some of the players maybe need a rest already? Because, as I said, PSG is literally 4 days after the Arsenal one. And I'd argue that's probably a bigger game for us than Arsenal.
I mean, first of all, I just want to say again that how annoyed I am at the way the calendar is. It's like not like January to December, although it does annoy me that December stands for 10 and is the 12th month. That sort of stuff does frustrate me massively. September, 7th month, but yeah, it's not. These sort of things do wind me up, Connor, almost as much as you eating a burger with a knife and fork. But I think the calendar has to be looked at in all seriousness. It's ridiculous. It's absolute madness. By this time last year, we'd played 4 games. Would have played 4 games had the Tottenham one not been postponed due to the death of Her Majesty the Queen. That would have been 4 games being played from September through to October. I find it absolutely unreal that we are in this situation where players have had about 3 weeks rest as a maximum before they're then asked to play an entire season of football again. And in a sport where we are sitting here bemoaning the number of ACL injuries that we're seeing from top athletes, it's ridiculous. And it's just because the international game has more money in it at the moment, because we are getting more regularly sold out crowds to watch the Lionesses play, to watch all of this international football. And that's the reason why we're putting in ridiculous things like UEFA Nations League. That's just not necessary. It's not needed in the women's game. You just don't need it. There's enough other things to be worried about here, Charlie. It's we've all gone at some point. Like Jess and Connor with the hotel Wi-Fi is somehow going strong.
What's going on here?
Yeah, next week we're all going to go Premier Inn by Wembley to just get the good insight.
Yeah, maybe we should just do all our streams from this hotel.
But yeah, so I just think that in its first point really needs to be made, because it's unacceptable that we're in this situation where you're playing the first game of the season and all of your players are tired. Like, how do you expect to go on for a whole season being like that? So yeah, that's my first thought. With regards to changes, you know how I feel about rotation, Connor. I'm a very simple human being. You start the team that is going to be your strongest, and you start the team that has earned the ability to play. I know that you'd like to think that PSG is a bigger game for us than Arsenal, and technically it is, insofar as we want to qualify for the group stages of the Champions League. But equally, listen, I mean, I find it hilarious that Adriana Leon was annoyed that she started on the subs bench for us and very rarely got brought on, only to go to a club that's arguably worse than us and be started on the subs bench and be very rarely brought on. So that's your first point. I know, right? It was Connor does a lot of bragging, but we're in the same situation now. The Arsenal game is massive because of Leslie Russo, because of everything that's happened there. She's got 0 bragging rights at the moment, but she'll get a few if they somehow manage to beat us on Friday, especially if she's involved in the goal scoring. So, you know, I think every game is important. When you're Man United, it's got to be. And equally, when you're in this situation where you want to be successful, we can't afford to be sitting there and doing what we did in the Conti Cup and just going, oh, well, we'll just stick out a different string of players. So you have to put out your strongest side. And if you're going to pick up injuries along the way, that's how it works. But you use them at the right time. And it's about being properly proactive with your substitutes, in my opinion. So for me, I wouldn't be changing that front three. If Galton's injured, obviously you're going to have to, but that's, again, how it works. It's about making sure you use your substitutes more than anything else in these sorts of games, because people are going to get the opportunity to perform during the season. And once you've got the shirt, you need to keep the shirt if you've earned it and played well enough to do so. I think just changing things just for the lulz doesn't really do us any good. But it will be interesting to see if he's got the trust in these new players that he's brought in, which he didn't have last season.
That's the key word. I think it's trust. Obviously, you know, this coming into obviously talking about Leicester. I think if it's going to be big, like more rotation, it'll be Leicester, because that comes in the middle of the PSG ties. So if you're going to do any, it's that one.
I can't see a world where Arsenal are going to sack Eidevall if they lose on Friday. I mean, that's
not that soon. I wouldn't be surprised. Put it that way.
Funny though, wouldn't it? I'd laugh.
And obviously, Dave's asking what chance. There was some song about her actually at Villa Park. The old Man City one about the passport being back in the drawer. Singing that about Russo. So I'm sure that will get brought out on Friday night. But she's got a few. She's got a few about her. That's for sure. Jeff, your kind of final. There it is. She's straight on it. Look. She knows what the song was. That's exactly what was being Park on.
I'll start warming up the vocal cords now in preparation for Friday then, because that is going to get blasted. Yeah, in terms of starting 11, it's really difficult to say. I think for me, probably stick with the same 11, assuming everyone's fit and well. It is just so difficult with these international fixtures. I don't know whose idea it was. It's just the dumbest thing that I have ever heard. You know, players being back in the country 3 days before the season starts. Like we've said, that the season is starting and they are already effing tired. You know, that is just insanity. We want to like protect these players. You know, I don't want to see players from any team going down with ACL injuries. You know, it's not good. So for me, it's stupid and it needs sorting, because it's just not what we want to see in the women's game at all. And it is gonna just lead to more and more injuries. But yeah, in terms of rotation and subs, I would probably stick with the same 11. But maybe well, similar to this weekend, you know, the first substitution, Rachel Williams, was made on about the 66th minute, which is quite early, really, for Skinner. So potentially just look at earlier substitutions. I think a comment was made earlier about it's difficult to rotate too much because you want the players to gel. And that is incredibly true. You know, we've spent a lot of this show talking about the new players and how it might take them a little while to get kind of used to playing in this team. How are they ever going to get used to this team if they're just being rotated in and out, playing with different players? At some point, you do have to kind of stick with your main 11. But yeah, it will be really interesting. It is going to be a tricky one, and I have to admit, I don't really envy Skinner right now, trying to work out how he's going to play it with all these fixtures piling in. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to Arsenal and PSG, I have to say.
2 crackers at LSV, and obviously we've got it all covered on this channel as well. With later in the week, we'll have a couple of Arsenal fans on with us to talk about Arsenal and PSG as well. So keep an eye out for that one.
Connie, I've just been using my time wisely, and I figured we could take the actual Alessia Russo chant that was used quite a bit, and you could have something along the lines of, her name is Alessia Russo. We thought she'd stay, but she wanted to go. She wanted Europe, but now the Gooner's out. She's had a brain fart without a chuffing belt. Or something like that. Could potentially work.
There we go. I'm sure we'll send that over to Slater. Let's see if we can get that into a.
He'll definitely improve it. He's way better than I.
We're sure we'll get something like that going around on Friday, that's for sure. Vic will start it. She'll sing bloody anything.
She won't sing Tooney out, that's for sure. Goodness, imagine.
I was going to say she's a bit disappointed. Everyone likes it. I think you're onto something here, Barry.
I've never been onto something in my life.
Look at everyone is agreeing with you here.
That's brilliant for a change. Big Johnny K. Wash your mouth out, sir. Grab it for Barry. Goodness me. Stop it. I'll go red.
So kind of the last thing, obviously, the player match poll, I have just ended it, and it was pretty unanimous. Lucia Garcia won it on 84%, Jace on 9%, Zellum and Tooney both split on 2%. Are you two agreed on that one? Would you have gone for Garcia, or would you have gone for somebody else?
I voted for Garcia.
Yes, as did I. However, I would have maybe given Rachel Williams a vote if she'd have been there, because I think she's just class, to be honest, my plasterer. But she wasn't there, so I did vote for Garcia.
Yeah, and I think if Jace would have got a goal, my vote would have gone for her. But yeah, I think Garcia probably over the night. And fair play to her. As you said, she was a bit more of a sub last season. But she's come in and started well. Wasn't off on the score sheet already, which is great to see. Now, this was an interesting one because at the time, Tooney got booked for this in the first half when it was clearly our ball anyway, and Tooney had a right to be annoyed and then got booked straight away. And we've seen it across the WSL weekend. I get it. They're trying to clamp down on it a little bit more, but it sometimes, I don't know, it just feels like they're trying to take the passion away from the game sometimes. And Tooney's obviously a player that wears her heart on her sleeve. I don't think she said anything that bad. She just swore. And that was enough to get her booked, which I feel was a bit ridiculous.
I think you've got to just sort of take a moment there and realise that people do have to be a bit more careful with how they're speaking to the refs. At the end of the day, it can be really annoying. You know, listen, I see it every Sunday. The refs can be incredibly poor and frustrating and inconsistent and all those sorts of things. But equally, they're the ones that are in charge of the game. And I very rarely reference rugby, but ultimately, the level of respect that's given in that game, you just have to understand that as much as you might dislike a decision, you can't go in as strong as they did. The same thing happened to Leon. You know, she argued back a bit too forcefully. And that's the problem. So it's not a case of trying to take the emotion out of the game. It's just trying to realise that, you know, there has to be a bit more respect for the people that are trying to run the game. But that goes the other way too, insofar as they've got to have enough respect for the game that they don't make ridiculous decisions. So I'm not against it. It's the same with kicking the ball away, time wasting, all of that sort of stuff. it's all stuff that ultimately is probably better off out of the game. So I don't have too many issues with it at the moment. If it leads to a United player getting sent off, come back to me. I might have changed my mind.
I agree with all your points apart from the Tooney one, only because she literally didn't say anything apart from she just went.
How do you know?
Because it was right in front of where we were right in front of where we were.
What did she say then? Come on, exclusive. What was her exact words?
No, I'm not going to swear on it because I don't want to demonetize.
Oh, she swore. Well, there you go then. That's your point.
But that shouldn't be that shouldn't be a straight yellow for that.
Listen, if Garcia was being interviewed by the ref, she'd have been booked.
She'd have been off for that.
To me,
you've played the game, Jess. Ignore me and Connor. You've played the game. What do you think? Because I'm sure there's been moments when you've got annoyed at the referee equally. But what's your thought? Should we be a bit more polite? It's the wrong word because it makes it sound like, oh yes, thank you, master.
I think there's a nice middle ground. I think we do need to clamp down on going on at the ref. If you're kind of not even necessarily abusing the ref, but kind of talking at them, showing any kind of signs of anger at them, that's got to kind of be clamped down on. I think if you're swearing into the world or just because I've done it, kicked the ball out, made a mistake, done whatever, or the ref's made a poor decision and I've just sworn into the atmosphere. I don't think I've ever actually sworn at a ref. But yeah, I think that for me, fine, not a problem. That is just showing emotion, showing feelings. But yeah, I do think we need to clamp down on the way we speak to refs. But I think there is kind of maybe a bit of a middle ground because you don't want to lose the passion, but yeah, I think it can be taken a little bit too far in some cases. But I have to say, I didn't even realise Tooney had got a yellow card until you've just said it. Honestly,
she literally said the ball went out. I think it was either a throw in or a coin, literally right in front of us, which is why because we could hear it. And she just went, "Are you effing serious?" That literally was it, and she got booked for that. And it's like, are you like that? To me, is not a yellow.
Yeah, to me, that's kind of fine because she probably wasn't even talking to the ref. She's just talking to like the world at that point. But again, yeah, I didn't even see that. I don't even remember seeing it on the TV.
I do agree, though. I do agree with the points, man. I think you've got to clamp down because otherwise it just gets ridiculous, and you get players surrounding the refs constantly and all those kinds of things.
Yeah, that's just it's not right. That.
So yeah, we'll see what happens over the course of who knows? It's the WSL. Anything's possible in this in this league. Right, we'll wrap it up there then. We started with 5. We've now got 3 of us.
Was it who said it was like a horror film? It really has been, hasn't it? Like it's amazing that we've made it through.
Jess is the only one that didn't do anything because I've had my camera on and off throughout it. Obviously, Barry, you dropped that a couple of times. Charlie's gone. Mia's gone. Jess, you're the only one that had a clean.
You're welcome, everyone. That's it. I am the only professional here amongst us with good internet, and I was just ready to go. It makes a change.
Oh dear me.
Oh look, she disappeared.
Oh, which was that then?
That's playing with you. That's playing.
BT were about to get a very angry phone call then.
Just imagine if that actually happened. Just as she's praising it, somebody pulls the plug.
That would be quite something. Oh dear me. We'll be back on either Wednesday or Thursday. We've not actually decided yet. Yeah, I can see the comment. You can come to it in a second because I know you want to do it. So you can come to it once I've shouted everything out. Yeah, so we'll be back either Wednesday or Thursday. One of the two, with obviously an Arsenal preview with a couple of Arsenal fans to discuss that one. The match reaction for Arsenal will be Saturday. Obviously being on a Friday night, we thought we'd move it around a bit. And obviously PSG is next Tuesday, so we'll be talking on that. The Predictions League table, obviously if you're in that, will be tweeted. I'll try and do it tonight. So it will be out later on this afternoon, hopefully. Obviously, FCAs, if you still want to vote for it, you can do. The easiest way of doing it is literally to go to the Instagram post, Best in Women's Football Creators, and just tag All for United WFC. It literally takes 5 seconds. Or you can go to the website. It's all in the description, and it will be the pinned comment on this video as well. Also, make sure you're liking the video, subscribing, all of that stuff. And I'll just throw it over to Barry, because I know he's so eager to get to Erling's comment. I saw it as soon as it came in. I was like, I'm just going to let him do it.
Everyone, Connor Swift is 2 feet tall, 2 feet tall, 2 feet tall. Connor Swift is 2 feet tall. He hates Brill Creek.